welcome to the all-Canadian reptile girl. I'm Annaliese, and I think I'm way funnier than I actually am. Today we are going to be talking about a group of lizards that I have admittedly and deliberately overlooked. And I bet you have too. And guess what? We were both wrong. Today I'm going to show you why we should be giving way more love to chameleons. Trust me, stick around. Chameleons, initially to me, were kind of a meh animal. Conceptually, they're really cool, but I thought of them as more of a display animal, and having a pet I can build a relationship with is way more important to me. They didn't seem to do much and seemed harder to care for, and owning one meant thousands of dollars needed to be kept at the ready for the inevitable vet visits. Not exactly a top choice for me, and I think for a lot of other people too. Specialized chameleon channels aside, the general feedback amongst creators that I have spoken to all kind of say the same thing. Chameleon content doesn't really do well. My sole video featuring these guys did pretty terribly too, despite being about glow-in-the-dark bones. I mean, come on! I have to say, the more I learn about these truly incredible creatures, the more disappointed I am that I ignored them, the more confused I am about why they get skipped, and the more I kind of want one. If I were to approach you on the street and ask you what makes chameleons unique from other lizards, I'm guessing you're gonna say, who are you and why are you asking me random reptile questions? Get away from me, you weirdo. But if I were to convince you to answer my questions, I'd bet you'd refer to things like their gorgeously geometric tail, or their color-changing ability, or the way that their bones glow in the dark. Did I mention that already? Glow in the dark. Maybe you'd say their kooky, all-seeing eyes, or the crazy way that their tongue shoots out like a missile and grabs their prey. With that list of commonly known superpowers, how are videos on these guys getting passed over for the 9 millionth bearded dragon care guide? Trust me, you might not end up wanting one as a pet, but I'm sure by the time we are done, you'll have a new... But I'm sure by the time... It's fine. But I'm sure by the time we are done, you'll have a new appreciation for these incredible creatures. There are over 200 different species of these old world lizards. Their range covers Africa, including Madagascar, Southern Asia, Southern Europe, and they've also been introduced to Hawaii, California, and Florida. These lizards are diurnal visual hunters, perfectly adapted to living in trees, as their painfully pinchy hands suggest, and they've been around since the time of the dinosaurs over 60 million years ago. Some are tiny, like the Brachygia nana, which is only half an inch long, and some are pretty big, like the Parsons chameleons, where the males can exceed a length of 2 feet. This fellow is not mine, but is on loan for this video from my friends at Pet Paradise London, Ontario. He is a subadult veiled chameleon, and you can purchase him if you'd like. Pet Paradise ships across Canada. And full grown, they can get pretty big too. Between 1.5 feet to 2 feet. And I've named him Pascal, for obvious reasons. You can name him whatever you want if you get him, but I would prefer if you kept his name Pascal, for obvious reasons. What I really admire about these lizards is how their superpower-like adaptations and abilities all work together when they hunt or evade becoming prey themselves. Let's start with their iconic color-changing skin. It's a myth that they are able to accurately mimic the specific pattern or image behind them, so sorry, but they are not able to do this. But they can make noise, which I'm still getting used to. But what they can do is still really awesome. I mentioned this in the glow-in-the-dark bones video, but it's worth touching on again. It was long thought that chameleons change color by dispersing or concentrating pigment granules in the cells that contain them. The idea was that when the pigment is concentrated in a tiny area within the cells, the intensity of that color is reduced. When pigment is allowed to disperse throughout the cells, it's darker. But we now know that that's wrong. Chameleons change colors with 4 different layers of nanocrystals in the top layer of their skin. Each layer of nanocrystals is able to reflect particular wavelengths or colors of light. When the chameleon wants to change their color, they are able to consciously shift the nanocrystals either closer or farther apart from each other, thus restricting or allowing more light to pass through, meaning they decide which light gets reflected back to us. But why? Well, there are a few different reasons. To attract a mate, to fight off a rival male. Some males will actually try to look like females so that they can just sneak past a male they don't want to fight. Sometimes it's to assist in heat regulation. And Of course. It is also to assist them in blending into their surroundings, but again, they are not the predator, and they don't mimic their backgrounds perfectly. They can't. But seriously, how cool is this ability anyways? I mean, I know a ton of people have a hard time deciding what to wear, and here's Pascal, being all chill, making split-second decisions about his fashion and appearance and manifesting them in the moment. So cool. So trendy. So fashionable. Being able to change your look on the fly is great. But how do you know when it's time for a change? Well, for chameleons, it's as easy as an eye roll, or 2 eye rolls, because they can choose to roll both or just one of their eyes. The ability to move each eye in different directions is called voluntary strabismus. Strabismus is usually a disorder in which the eyes are misaligned and pointing in different directions. So voluntary strabismus, it's a difficult word without being difficult. So voluntary strabismus is choosing to point your eyes in different directions, which you can see Pascal doing right here. Animal that relies on blending into their surroundings to hunt and remain uneaten themselves, this means that they can look all around their environment with minimal body movement, reducing the likelihood of catching the attention of potential prey or a predator. Lots of animals, especially fish and birds, have independent wandering eyes, and for them, each eye connects to the other's part of the brain too, so that each eye knows what the other eye is seeing. Scientists used to believe that chameleon eyes were not only disconjugate, meaning that their eyes were operating independently and not joined in action, but that they were wired into their brain as 2 totally distinct systems, and the brain would look at the information from the eyes separately and then decide to follow whichever eye was tracking the food, predator, or rival chameleon, or whatever it was that they wanted to follow or avoid, which meant that the left eye had no idea what the right eye was seeing, and vice versa. I guess it would be like playing an online video game with another person, but you've spawned into some other part of the map and you cannot see or communicate with your teammate at all to know what they're doing, but you're supposed to be working together. That kind of thing. Except instead of being pwned by noobs in a video game, chameleons are facing starvation or predation. I guess the stakes are a little different. Lucky for them, those scientists were wrong, and that's not actually how chameleons work. Thanks to Professor Ehud Rivlin of the Technion Israel Institute of Technology and Professor Gadi Katzir of the University of Haifa, we're able to determine how they actually work, and it is way weirder than we first thought. They were able to demonstrate that chameleons have simultaneous smooth monocular vision tracking, which means that they are able to see and track 2 different targets at the same time. With the help of a computer game, the professors had one target which the chameleon was looking at with both eyes. They then split the target, sending each half of the target into a different direction, and the chameleon was able to track each of the targets simultaneously before choosing one of the targets as the main focal point. They determined that chameleons have one main tracking eye, with the other eye being a converging eye, meaning it will eventually converge over to the same target as the tracking eye. This confirmed that even though each eye can see independently, there must be a higher function in the brain which allows both eyes to be aware of what the other is seeing, and make changes accordingly. So their eyes are disconjugate, doing their own thing when walking along a branch and scanning their surroundings, disconjugate but coordinated during monocular or one-eyed tracking, and conjugate when using binocular or 2-eyed tracking. Binocular vision increases the chameleon's depth perception, allowing them to make crucial calculations required for capturing prey. Not sure how important this is? Then spend some time with one eye closed and go for a walk around your home. Carefully, of course. Though, doing it with simple disregard for carefulness would also be quite fun. Go up and down stairs, take things out of drawers or cupboards, pour yourself a glass of water, play Jenga. You'll soon learn the importance of depth perception. The fact that chameleons' eyes protrude so far out of their head allows them the extra range of motion to be able to see almost completely around them. You hear a lot that chameleons have 360-degree vision, but that's not exactly true. They have almost 360-degree vision. It's actually like 342-degree vision. There's about 18 degrees of vision behind their head that they cannot see. For reference, we have a nearly 180-degree field of vision. So a chameleon's blind spot is only about 1/10 of ours. And what they can see, they see in exquisite detail up to half a mile away. They're able to see the full color spectrum, similarly to human eyes, but thanks to an additional type of cone in their retinas, they also see ultraviolet light as well. Inside our eyes, there are rods and cones. Those aren't the right ones. Let's see here. Okay. Inside our eyes, there are rods and cones. That's much better. And they react to light. The rods assist us when we are seeing in low light and are responsible for the amounts of light that we have in our peripheral vision, while cones help us see color, bright light, and details. Just like us, chameleons have both rods and cones in their retinas, but they have far fewer rods and so many more cones. This means that they are almost blind in the dark. But in ample light, the extra cones allow them to see in exquisite detail. It's interesting to note that the chameleon's focusing speed, how quickly they see and decipher that detail, is about 4 times faster than our focusing speed. And once they have locked onto their tasty buggy treat, the next step is a marvel of biomechanical engineering that seemingly defies logic. This is where it gets really wild. The concept is simple. Chameleons shoot out their tongue to grab prey. But when you analyze the whole process and execution, it's anything but simple. You need a targeting system, the eyes, we covered that already. You need a powerful, accurate, and reloadable launch system to propel the tongue long range. You need the ability for the tongue itself to physically latch onto and hold the prey upon impact and be able to hang on during the massive shift in force on their return trip. And you need the ability to retract and store all of this equipment. The chameleon's ability to use their tongue as a tool for long-range capture is a marvel of evolution. Check this out. The tongue is anchored in place by the hyoid bone, which is located at the back of the mouth. Protruding out from the hyoid bone is the hyoid process, a longitudinal, thin, dart-like looking bone. It's around this thin bone that the tongue sits when at rest. Within the muscle of the tongue are a whole bunch, lots of sphincter-like rings of collagen fibers. When the tongue is all pulled back in the mouth, all these rings are stacked closely together, like an accordion. As the chameleon locks onto a yummy-looking insect, everything kind of tenses in preparation for the shot. And then, the tongue shoots forward like a missile, as all that stored energy is released. You can see those rings releasing here. Here you can see how the hyoid bone assists in launching the tongue forward and in retracting the tongue muscle back into its resting state. As amazing as all the storing and firing mechanisms of the tongue are, checking out how the chameleon literally grabs the prey with the end of its tongue is crazy. There is a mucus that covers the end, but it isn't that sticky on its own. However, when the tongue is fired at a prey, the massive increase of acceleration combined with the force of the tongue's impact against the insect actually increases the adhesive properties. Combine that with the fact that the tongue can actually envelop the prey like a fleshy, gooey catcher's mitt, and the chameleon has some serious bragging rights for their accuracy. Chameleons can extend their tongues up to 2.5 times their body length. So for a veiled chameleon, like Pascal here, who can grow up to 2 feet long, that means that when he's full grown, he could hit a target 1.5 meters away. For us human beings, this would be like us grabbing a 25-pound hamburger off a table that's 12 feet away and getting it back into our mouths using only our tongues. What's interesting to note is that when it comes to chameleons, size isn't everything. Smaller chameleons can shoot their tongue out faster than their larger relatives, going from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 1/100th of a second. They can accelerate their tongue towards an insect up to 264 times the force of gravity. The scientific engineering behind pretty much everything about this creature is just incredible. Truly a marvel of biology, wouldn't you agree? Well, that's it for today, folks. Tell me, now that you know a little more about how awesome they are, don't you like them a little more, or is that just me? What did you find the most interesting? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for sticking around, even though you didn't really want to learn anything about chameleons. I really appreciate you watching to the end, and you get to see this. Oh, that feels weird on my ears. Please like and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you'll see when I post another video about reptiles that you aren't interested in learning about. That's probably not a good argument, eh?
Yeah, probably not.
Thanks to my patrons who stick with me through everything. I hope he is in frame, which is a real marvel of science. If you're interested in supporting me and my channel too, shoot on over to patreon.com/allcanadianreptilegirl and sign up for as little as $2 a month. And remember to nurture all nature. Bye! I have tiny little red dots all over my wrist and my hands.
It's natural acupuncture.
He's never gotten my finger like that before.
Natural acupuncture.
Well, I mean, I guess. Ow. Sir. Okay. Bye. I think we're done. Is something wrong? I'm trying to understand him.
Are those chopsticks and a stainless steel straw in your hair?
It's my special straw. It helps me do science. Okay.